You know how sometimes someone's writing and they anticipate, you know, what someone's gonna say. So right around this time, it's the 16th of June, 2019, I'm about to make a Facebook post on my Destry Levi Griffith Facebook account. I'm just gonna go ahead and post all of Chapter 5, the secular priesthood and the perils of democracy. I'm sure it's easy to Google anyway. But just so that you can maybe screenshot and read the first page without having to dig through my Facebook. In fact, I don't know how good you are with computers, but you know what? I'll just give you the whole thing real quick. Let's see if we can do that. There you go. That got focused. That focused, I'm sure. I don't know how high this quality is, but let's see. Did that focus? Did that focus? Let that focus. Oh God, you'll Google it. You'll read the rest. Okay. So I was just anticipating a reaction to my comment, the note that said something about, well, I'll just read it real quick. He's talking about Orwell, the result, Orwell and media and silencing of dissent. The result is that in free societies, you know, where people are just sort of, in free England, he wrote, censorship is largely voluntary. This was the introduction to Animal Farm that usually doesn't come out with your copy of Animal Farm. Yeah, it's a good meta example. So, you know, an example of itself, like, yeah, anyway, you get it, you know. He was talking about free silencing of dissident opinion, and he wrote it. And he wrote Animal Farm, and he condemned the official enemy. And anyway, read this. It's full of this meta level understanding. You'll love it. It's actually one of the few pieces of really good Chomsky literature. Okay, the result is that anyone who, yeah, what was it? He also wrote about the counterpart in free societies to be silencing in the Soviet system. In his introduction to Animal Farm, which dealt with literary censorship in England, in Free England he wrote, censorship is largely voluntary. Unpopular ideas can be silenced, inconvenient facts kept in the dark, without any need for an official ban, he says. The result is that, quote, anyone who challenges the prevailing orthodoxy finds himself silenced with surprising effectiveness. He only had a few remarks about the methods used to achieve this result. One is that the press is in the hands of wealthy men who have every motive to be dishonest on certain important topics and to silence unwelcome voices. A second device is a good education, which instills, quote, general tacit agreement that it just wouldn't do to mention certain particular facts. I said, one of the most important of which is that a good education makes it almost impossible to question the validity of a good education. And then I anticipated that on my Facebook, were I just a little bit more popular, which part of the reason why, ironically, I am not is because I say shit like this, that some fucking Yahoo, of course, was gonna say, so aren't you using your good education to question a good education? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, actually, I think my answer came right to mind. It was some kind of Chomsky-esque, you know, like kind of channeling, you know, mirror neurons or whatever it is. It was like, you know, I really think that a very sharp divide can be made between education and learning. Education being defined on the one hand as schooling, college, top-down, blah, 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 and learning being defined as like actual following of your instincts and like, as Chomsky puts it, like sort of like Deweyite, you know, laying out of a string, instead of like directing, something like that. Or as Quinn puts it, following your nose. If you want to really learn something about education, read, and if you want a perfect example of where Daniel Quinn picks up exactly where Noam Chomsky leaves off and goes much deeper, has a much broader overview, is much more wise, amazingly, given that Chomsky's like one of the wisest people, like literally. Google the essay. Just Google Daniel Quinn schooling the hidden agenda. Read that essay. It's amazing. Okay, coming back. I wanted to give just this example of education. It's not just the college. It's not just like, you know, that top-down being told what to think. One of my favorite examples is I was walking a dog. I was out with my dog Heidi. We went everywhere with her leash off. We were walking around Flagstaff, Arizona. And Flagstaff is a famous like mixture of hippies and liberals and conservatives town because it's small town Arizona. So of course it's super conservative, but it's a college town and it's pretty hippie. In fact, Flagstaff is a mini Portland in many ways. But the cops are notoriously regressive, as they are in many such towns. Like, you know, I can't think of other examples, but you often hear about that, like in Ashland, Oregon. Like you'll hear about like really hippie town, really regressive cops. You gotta compensate somehow, right? It kind of makes sense. So, but they can't get away with being too bad, you know, so they try, but they can't completely get away with it. So walking, she's never on her leash, but this cop comes up to me and you can tell all he needs is his power trip and then he's good. He doesn't want to write me a ticket. He doesn't, but he's not happy with just, you know, whip her leash on real quick from my pocket. Actually, I always kept it just right around her neck. I kept one of these like 4-foot chains, real delicate little link chain, and I just looped it around her neck and clipped it back to the collar again. It went around like 2-3 times. And she just wore it around like a little necklace. And then so it was always just like, come here, baby. Chick, chick. Okay, she's on a leash now. Thank you, officer. But he's not happy with that. He needed to educate me about the law. So I had to stand there and listen to this moron explain things to me. I mean, and he really was one of those people who you can tell is not just on a power trip, but is of clearly below average intelligence and compensating for it by having the power to explain things to you. And he used the word educate. He was just going to educate me for a minute and then I could go. So, you know, that's the difference.